somewhat protected and shielded from any kind of critiquing about our personal behavior, whereas our men have always been up for examination. The book is not an attack on black women. I have never said that all black women do everything that I list in my book. None of us have lived long enough to do everything that I list in the book, but most of us do some of the things that I've listed in my book. And I do say that it is not because of generalizations that we are all victimized by some of the negative patterns of behavior in the book, but the book just represents our collective contribution. This is some of everything that we have done or that we do daily that contributes to the breakup of our relationship, the destruction of our man, and the failure of our children to be able to function. They did not tell us that all of that, being my own person and I'm independent, would lead to separation, loneliness, celibacy, and lesbianism. They didn't tell us that if you give up the man, you're going to take one of these things and it's worse and it will destroy your nation. They didn't give us that information. They made us think that it was some kind of glorified position to brag about the fact that I got my own job, my own credit card, my own car, so I don't need no man. I don't even know how we got that mixed up. Ain't none of that got nothing to do with being with no man. We have some serious relationship problems that nobody has been able to address us on because everybody wants to pretend that this is not going on. Over 60% of our women are single, widowed, separated, or divorced. They don't have a man. I just came out of Florida and they got a housing complex that the Urban League built, which is a black organization that is for women and children only. They say they don't allow any men in there. I didn't have time to deal with it, but I talked about them real bad. That's the silliest program I've ever heard of. You know them women that had men if they got a bunch of children. They need fathers. They need protection. We hear about the drug problem that we have in our projects across the country. It's one of the major places that we have a drug problem. We talk about the great strength that we have as black women. Well, the welfare department don't rent government apartments to single black men. Those apartments belong to black women who are allowing this to go on in their home. We have not looked at what part of the responsibility do we share. Yes, black men sell a lot of drugs, and a lot of us black women get the money from them drugs and buy some of these fancy clothes we wear, drive around in some of these fancy cars. He is not doing these things alone and without support from us, whether they are good or bad. See, we have a lot of power. We are very strong women. I'm saying that we're using our strength in the wrong direction. We're using it to tear our man down, tear our nation down, instead of building it up.
Why should the black...
All right, so dealing with that, because she said a lot, but like I said, we're framing this conversation around what is contributing to the breakdown of our society, what is contributing to the breakdown, the continued breakdown of the black society, the black community. She talked about a lot, but one of the main things she talked about is the government's involvement. Pat, once again, your book, The Chasm, it's an underrated book. It's a great book with a lot of great information because a lot of stuff that you talk about in your book, Shahrazad Ali, just kind of laid down here. But the governmental assistance, because I think you did a great job of laying out how the government actually played its part in the breakdown of the black family structure, because you remove the man, the woman, and the children are vulnerable. And when the women and children are vulnerable, especially to your enemies are going to do any and everything to them to further break them down, to keep them down, because we got to remember the ultimate goal is for them to remain on top. So just things that she mentioned is starting off like that independent woman mindset. But where did that come from? We talk about it all the time. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Pat, because assimilation. Break down assimilation. Let's go into assimilation real quick, Pat. What type of assimilation have we done as far as black people, men and women, that is leading us to the further breakdown or even adopting behaviors that lead to our breakdown?
Well, I know you threw it to me, but yep. I know PC did a really good job. With one of the questions you asked was, where did this come from? Right? Like I heard you right? Yeah. PC did a really good job of breaking down how how the notion of the modern wave of feminism, how it was introduced into the community, how it was manipulated. And really, it wasn't even just a black woman issue. It was really something where they were selling a product and an idea to lower class women of all status. Black women were definitely a significant part of that group. And so I kind of wanted PC to go, because that I feel like that kind of sets the stage, and he does that very well.
All right, well, PC, yeah. You right, Pat. You right. You made me remember. You right. Go ahead, break them off something real proper, PC.
Well, and thank you, Patrick, for lobbing that
Chris
fastball, brother.
Paulin.
We'll knock it out the park now, shout. One of the things I think that's real important is to understand the role of Gloria Steinem in all of this, because Gloria Steinem was the CIA agent that sat in the back of those meetings in the Black Panther Party, and she was one of the people that corrupted black women with intentionality.
Just real quick, and to be clear, Gloria Steinem is the white woman in the picture where you see the black woman and the white woman from the 70s holding the black power fist.
Right. So she was instrumental in manipulating women into this whole notion that black men played a role in patriarchy. They actually created a term called social patriarchy, which it didn't align itself with the first wave of feminism, which was about basically white women having the same rights as white men in regards to being able to dominate other cultures and community. They wanted equal share in that. So they couldn't convince black women right away, not a lot of them, that black women suffered from the same ordeal they did, because black men were not considered the patriarchs of American society, Western society. So they created a whole new term called social patriarchy, which talked about abuse. Yeah, there she is. Which talked about abuse and DV a lot, and incorporated those notions into the lexicon, which, unfortunately swept away a lot of our sisters. So, and James Earl Jones does a real good job at breaking this down as well. It militarized our sisters who were already militarized under the Black Power movement, the Panther movement during the 70s. They changed their focus. Their focus was no longer the white patriarchy. Their focus was no longer white supremacy. Their focus became black men. And so, I'm talking about the breakdown of family structure. You can see that, along with government programs, the Great Society bills that were passed, the choice that black women were given between choosing to find housing, substantial housing with their men, who were also being warred on with unemployment and things of that nature, not able to get a job because of discrimination and so forth. These are no secrets. It's what they call spectral dominance, or where they control or they dominate and they attack you in all different areas. So it created a scenario where women had children. Black women weren't the only ones having children out of wedlock, by the way.
Right.
I want to be clear about that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The whole
that was a growing issue in America.
Wade was about a white woman who was who had several children out of wedlock. That was the whole background behind that. I just want to say that. But it did create the breakdown of the black family unit. And when you add, and there are other factors, because it was a sophisticated operation. You had that, the war on drugs, and all these other factors that created scenarios where the black family was broken down. And unfortunately, in those tough times, a lot of the women chose those programs. A lot of the
Mhm.
women aligned and identified more with their white female counterparts than they did racially with the men that they were subjected, that they were equally subjected to in regards to racism, white supremacy.
Right. White women sold them a dream and then ran back to their men.
And let's be clear, this is about order, control, but it's also about maintaining a social status of keeping black people at the bottom of the social dynamic. Because if you can separate
Yeah.
families, socially, economically speaking, now you done create a situation where you can double bill because men and the women don't live together anymore. So the men have
Mhm.
to pay for their living arrangement, the women have to pay for their living arrangements. And you also create a situation which make people more dependent. So now I have leverage over you. And you have to operate in this fashion because this I will apply pressure with this
Right.
leverage.
Right. Right.
And
And this is what we're breaking down is not absolving black people from any personal responsibility, but we are giving factors that did help lead to the breakdown of our family. Because at what point we know prior to 1965, the black family were the model of what a family was in America, and married at the highest rate, 80%. And then through the assimilation, through the lies, through the assimilation, through the fake partnerships. That's why I love the Dr. John Henry Clark clip when he's talking about if you want a friend, damn it, look in the mirror, right? Because the idea went from family being important to independence being important. 'Cause that's one of the things, because I had to get my notes on this one. Because one of the things that Shahrazad Ali was talking about, one of the first things she talked about is the idea of being independent, strong, independent black women who don't need no man. And she followed that up by giving up your man, right? That idea was given to black women by white women. White women convinced black women that, hey, you don't need your man. And then the government came in with their assistance and everything that they did to uh, assist the black mother, but also to put barriers in place and play in front of the black man to make life hard for him. And so you have black people who are experiencing racism and all these things outside of the home, and then inside the home there's strife because they're at each other's throat because they can barely survive. They're in survival mode. You can't build families off of survival mode. I was When I was reading Dr. Wilson's book for Monday, that's one of the things I was talking about, building the healthy family versus the survival family. The survival family, that is just that they're surviving, so they're subject to a lot of detriments on the outside because survival families can't truly protect themselves because
you're
you
always in
constantly.
crisis mode.
There you go. Always in crisis mode. So you can't focus on protection. You have to focus on what you deem as the necessities, trying to get to the next day, trying to get to the next moment.
So
Bam.
hold on,
So
Joe,
go
right
ahead.
there, because I want to help like clarify what you just said. Not clarify it, but say it so that a lot of people can really understand. When you're in survival mode, think of it as you have a wall, you have a dam.
Mm-hmm.
The dam has a lot of leaks,
Mm-hmm.
fissures, pressure. You have to continuously stop these leaks because the dam is poorly constructed. And because you have to continuously stop these leaks, you have to continuously, you can't sit back and focus and assess, damn, maybe we can just put a whole wall up. Maybe we can reconstruct it. Because if you take your eye off the dam, it might burst and your whole town, your whole society will flood. Person functioning in survival mode already has the resources on hand to make sure they build a better dam.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to
Yeah.
plug that in there real quick.
That's good. That's good because, like I said, the idea of independence then that leads to giving up your man, which also further leads to we can't relate to each other. So now we having issues relating, just like right now in 2023, we're having issues relating to each other. And everything is on Front Street. But Pat, you want to go ahead and jump in?
No, because I wanted to, And I wanted to harp on this concept that black women or black people have been manipulated in it, because that goes back to the propaganda piece, just tying it all in together. Because a lot of the times when we talk about how the larger dominant society has given black people certain ideas or has presented certain things that black people have run with, you always have that segment of people that say, well, can't nobody make you think nothing, or can nobody, but like, we have to address the fact that that's false. Like, we look at the current narrative running right now, which we can talk about the wage gap, right? That's one of the
Mm-hmm.
things to talk about, because so many people have have kind of proven that there are explainable reasons why men make more money than women, and
Mm-hmm.
vast majority of them don't have anything to do with sexism. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just one scenario, but you still hear in the black community people championing that. Another one is when we talk about or I'm sorry, not intimate partner violence. um this is something, Joe, you were in a group with me where I was talking to a young lady about this very subject. The fact that, okay, so we say nationally, right? uh 9% of black women by intimate partner during their lifetime, right? And nobody's saying that that's cool, right? Obviously, that's not acceptable.
And you said 9%.
9%
Okay.
of black, and again, we're saying that black women right now, we're just going to say, okay, the vast majority of black women are with black men, because we know that to be true. But we're going to include, for the sake of numbers, we're just going to say 100% of black women are with black men, right? So we're saying
Mm-hmm.
9% of black women, right? Okay, 10% of white women and 11% of multiracial women experience the same thing. So black women are actually at a lower clip than that, than the other two groups of women. But whenever we talk about this, we talk about it as if black men are just running around out of all women. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna have to do a real editing job, but keep
So
playing.
that's
Cook, brother, cook.
no, but that's one issue. Even when we talking about, because I'm saying right, grape. Anyways, even when we talk about another issue, right? Like, we talking about 17% of black women in the US experience sexual violence other than by an intimate partner during their lifetime. And again, this is compared to 27% of multiracial women and 17% of white women. So in that clip, you're at the same clip as the white women, but you think white men are safe and black men are dangerous. And
Mm-hmm.
then we go into a third clip, which is something that nobody ever talks about, which is that 15% of black men in the US experience sexual violence other than rape by an intimate partner. Now, 17% of black men, or I'm sorry, black women, 15% of black men. Those numbers are very similar, but nobody accuses black women of being violent. Just an example of how the narratives present one thing, the facts show something else. But because we're all geared up around narratives, we
Yep.
start behaving
Yep.
in ways and
Yep.
doing things and presenting solutions that don't address the real world problems, which actually goes back to something else Shahrazad Ali has said, which is where she says there's never been any sort of accounting for the black woman. So we're in this scenario now where black men have been over accounting, and it's not that I have a
Mm-hmm.
problem with that, because if black men want to be the leaders of the community,
You
leaders
got
have to take
yeah.
more responsibility than everybody else. That's just the way it goes. But
Right.
everybody else still has some responsibility and some accountability. And until we get into that place, then we're going to continue to be in this place of struggling with family structure and cultural development.
So you saying narratives have played a part into even a lack of self-examination, because the narratives say one thing, but the actual statistics and the facts say a whole nother thing.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And that
So,
that probably would lead to us not relating to each other, us not marrying each other, us saying we hate each other, us only using each other
but
as
but
sexual partners, all that.
but even to that, Joe, real quick, even to that, the notion that black people don't like each other There's no
That's
other
not true.
group outside of white people. There's no black people intermarry more than any non-white group in America. I'll repeat that. Black people marry other black people. They marry within their own racial group, their own ethnicity, more than any other racial group in America. Any other one. You name one, we marry each other more than they marry themselves. So even the narrative that outside of white people, so even the narrative that black people are rushing off to marry non-black people, that like that narrative is not true.